Are the thoughts that I'm having right now useful? And what's the nature of my mind? How is it behaving? Just ask yourself that and be curiously aware and observe what's going on. And when you do that, you start creating an untanglement and you start improving your state of consciousness. Right, in this video, we're going to talk about why taking responsibility for your state of consciousness should be an absolute priority. So I'm going to make this video as quick as I can. It's only going to take 5-10 minutes. Bear with me, okay? Try to hold on and just hear me out until the end of this video, instead of getting distracted by your messages or your notifications on Facebook or whatever else it is. Try to just be attentive for 5-10 minutes, because my aim in this video is to help you out. All right, so stick around. So first, I want to explain what I mean by state of consciousness. State of consciousness basically means the same thing as saying state of mind or frame of mind, but these things become really difficult to talk about, and that's because what the word consciousness and mind means to most people, you trip over yourself straight away. So consciousness is basically, it's the one thing that without consciousness there's no experience, right? There's no nothing. You can't have thoughts, you can't have sense perception, you can't have emotions. There's no nothing without consciousness. So consciousness is not something that you have. It's ultimately the best understanding or description of what you are and who you are. Consciousness and awareness can be used interchangeably. They mean the same thing. Okay, so ultimately consciousness is what you are at your core. And then when we talk about mind or frame of mind, mind can be understood in the same sort of way. Mind is, most people's understanding of what mind is that it's the container in where the activity of the brain happens. It's where thoughts arise. Thoughts arise in my mind. Yeah? But the thing is about that is that mind is a concept. It's an idea. It's a thought. It's a thought about where our thoughts arise. So you can see how you very quickly trip over yourself, and it's very hard to talk about. But I'm going to do my best in this video. Okay, so why do I think that your state of consciousness is so important, and why should it be your priority? And the reason being is because it's prior to everything. It has an impact and affects everything, every area of your life. Yeah, so when we say state of consciousness, what frame of mind are you in right now? What state of consciousness are you in right now? What we're really saying is, what bundle of thoughts are you deriving the sense of who you are from right now? Yeah, so the activity of your mind, the thoughts that arise, we get identified with them, and that then becomes our state, our frame, our lens that we see the world through. And being able to shift that is of, it's just really important, right? It's really important to be able to shift that from one that is undesirable to one that's more desirable. So what is the utmost desirable state of consciousness and state of awareness? And I think that it is one of clarity. It's a clear mind. A powerful, creative, solution-focused mind is one that's clear. It's not one that's filled with positive affirmations. It's one that's crystal clear. That's a mind that functions optimally, in the same way that your eyes function optimally when they're clear, and so does your hearing. If you can hear your ears, if you can hear ring or whatever, they're not functioning optimally. You can't use them efficiently. Same as your eyes. If you can see little specks and you see things as you look around, then your eyes aren't functioning optimally. So you want to be able to get your mind into a place of clarity and clear thinking, and that's where you have access to an immense creative power. Okay, that's where your mind is most efficient. When it's not kind of like bombarded and obstructed and cluttered with loads of thoughts. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we take responsibility? How do we start to shift it? So the main kind of concept to get and to understand is that, as I said before, that nothing can exist without consciousness, without you, basically. The thoughts can't exist without you. You can exist without the thoughts, but the thoughts can't exist without you. And this is very hard to understand and even more difficult to experience because of decades of conditioning and being a certain way. It's very challenging at the start. But if you understand that and just be curious about it, just be curious. That's how I started kind of looking into this sort of stuff, because when you decide that you want to kind of make the most of your life and be an optimal human being, kind of, if you question enough and you're curious enough, you lead to this point of really discovering that where you're deriving the sense of who you are from is an illusion. It's faulty. It's not real. It's not who you really are. And when you discover that, it's like, damn, well, that's how I've been kind of like coming to the I've been deciding what I want based on that sense of who I am, and then based on what I want is all my actions. Everything that I do is based on what I want and what I don't want. So just everything is kind of like the core, the root to all of my stuff, all my desires, everything that I want to do and everything that I'm doing is coming from a sense of this bundle of thoughts that's not actually me. I'm deriving the sense of who I am from an illusion, basically. So that's the conclusion that most people, that you end up coming to, that I've come to, and it's just mind blowing when you really start looking into this and becoming curiously aware of the nature of your mind and just asking yourself, are the thoughts that I'm having useful right now? Are they useful towards the outcome that I'm looking to achieve? And most of the time, it's no. And you'll realize just how little control you have over that narration and that flow of thinking. But whilst it's happening, you've got the sensation, the feeling, you make the assumption that that's you thinking, the unquestionable assumption. It's just like, yeah, of course, that's me thinking. These thoughts, the thought activity, you just think it's you. And when you really sit down and, like, say, if you try to meditate, you'll know how difficult it is to stop that voice, that narration. And just by that alone should give you, some inkling towards knowing the fact that voice isn't really you. You've got no control over it. It just happens. Yap. Yeah, so taking control of your state of consciousness means becoming more and more aware of what's going on in your mind and the thoughts that you're having and the conditioned thoughts that you're having about certain situations, becoming more aware of it. And by doing so, you start creating a subject-object relationship with it, and that's where you start to untangle from it. And then by doing so, what happens is it then starts losing its power, its energy, its life force. It can't exist without you, remember? Yeah, the thoughts can't exist without you. So it's like a parasite that comes in and that's there. And then as soon as you start observing it, you start noticing, that's not me. And then you start being yourself more, and you start observing it. And then over time and with practice, it starts losing its energy. And that's why implementing a meditation practice can be very powerful. If you hate meditation and that's a dirty word for you, then maybe try some yoga or just general Buddhism mindfulness techniques. Just go on YouTube or Google and look up some stuff, read a book on it, become curious about where you're deriving the sense of who you are from. That's something you can start from today to really start taking responsibility for your state of consciousness. One thing that I do is I use any negative emotion as a trigger, any anxiety, fear, stress, frustration, anger. I use that as a trigger to say, what's happening right now? What am I compulsively thinking right now? Just become aware of the thought processes. The earlier on you do it, the easier it gets. The more momentum it gathers, the harder it is. And the more likely a nap is going to be your best solution. Yeah, but practicing that every time you get a sensation of any negative emotion, use that as a trigger to ask yourself, are the thoughts that I'm having right now useful? And what's the nature of my mind? How is it behaving? Just ask yourself that and be curiously aware and observe what's going on. And when you do that, you start creating an untanglement and you start improving your state of consciousness. And then that affects everything. It affects how you behave and what you do and what you achieve and all that stuff. All right? So I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.